So in order to do this acrylic award, I made my stencil in reverse because I'm actually going to be screen printing on the inside of my acrylic award. So let me just cut this apart and mark my corner so I know which side to put my stencil back on. And I'm going to be using our new multi-surface paint for this project. So I'm just going to remove the protective sheet that's on the acrylic award. And now that that is taken off, I'm just going to use a little bit of glass cleaner to make sure I'm starting with a nice clean surface without any of my fingerprints on there or any residue from anything. And then I'll just apply my stencil. So like I said, I'm applying this in mirror image and it is repositionable. So I just want to get it as straight and centered as possible. One trick for centering that you can do is add a box around your image that is the same as your frame size, and then you'll know exactly where to put it and where to center it. Just takes up a little bit more stencil when you do it that way, but it does work really good. All right, and then I just take my paint and add it to my stencil. And I'm going to be using my silicone squeegee, and I just pull it across. And then I like to make sure there's just no squeegee lines anywhere before I remove my stencil. And then when I remove it, I just remove it very slowly to make sure I got all my areas and that everything looks good and crisp and clear. And this one looks really good. If something would be off or I wouldn't like it, I could quickly wipe this off and redo it if I needed to, but this one looks great. So I'm just going to wash my stencil and then I'm going to move on to my next award. So that's that award. That was really easy. And if I would want to make a bunch of awards, I could keep this part on its own stencil and do, 10 awards with that, and then just put the name on a tiny little stencil and have those be separate. So that would make this stencil reusable, and then just the name part would be on its own stencil. So that also works great. Gonna do a teeny tiny little cleanup right here where I had a little hair on my stencil, it looks like, or something. So then you just flip it over and add in your screws. And you just flip it over. Add your little stands to the back. That's all there is to it. Let's make another one. So for this acrylic award, I'm actually going to be doing a two-part stencil. I'm going to put this part on the back side in white, and then I'm going to put his name in gold foil on the front. Looks good. And then I will add my back stencil. little notch in here so I know what side to put my stencil back on after I wash it out. And I'm just gonna eyeball it. And rub it down really good to make sure there's no air bubbles. And I'm using our multi-surface paint. With our black squeegee. And I'm just pulling the ink across, gliding it over the surface and making sure I cover all the openings. And then I just use my squeegee to remove any extra and make sure that I don't have any squeegee lines. And then I have a good coating. And then I'll lift up my stencil slowly just to make sure all the areas are covered. And if they're not, I will lay back down my stencil to make sure. But this looks great. Gorgeous, beautiful detail in there. The letters are super crisp, it looks great. Now that we have this backside done, I want to make sure this ink is completely dry before I, would flip it over. But because I'm using a raised award, these little knobs will protect my award while I do the other side. All right, so for the other side, I'm going to be adding in the name of the person who got the hole-in-one in foil. So I'm just going to add my name on here. And again, just push down really well. And I'm gonna be using the Deco Foil liquid adhesive along with the Deco Foil foils. You can get these both at craft store, Hobby Lobby, or online. I'm gonna be using the gold today. So, just gonna follow the instructions on the bottle. For this foil, all you do is you add it to your design like a normal paint. You remove your stencil and you let it dry for like an hour before you add your foil. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I barely need any. And I'm just going to squeegee it across the same exact way that I would if I was doing ink or paint. And because this is gonna be harder to see, you just wanna really make sure that you for sure got all of, the openings and that everything is definitely covered. And again, I'm just gliding over the top versus like really pushing down just to make sure that that adhesive stays on there and I'm not scraping it away. So then I'll just remove my stencil. And that looks really good. So I'm just going to let that dry for like an hour and then I'll be back. All right, now that an hour is up, we can add our foil. And all you do is take your sheet of foil and add it over your adhesive. You want the adhesive to feel tacky but dry. So all I'm gonna do is add my foil. And then I like to use our white Ikonart squeegee and just kind of push it. You wanna really make sure you're getting the foil on the adhesive really well. You'll be able to kind of see that the foil adhered to the adhesive. And then you just remove it. And that's all there is to it. Super easy. So all I'm gonna do is make sure I don't have any fingerprints on here and on the back before I put this on. And again, the ink is on the back here, is completely protected, so just going to make sure I'm not doing it upside down, which I am. So do it this way. And then I'll just add my little screws here and have a really cool award that was super, super easy to make.